Okay, here we go. I'm going to try and do my best to talk at the camera. Can't guarantee anything. Can't guarantee anything. That's for sure. Okay, so today I want to talk a little bit about what my challenge was. This walking challenge that I just did. Put up a whole bunch of shorts. If you guys want to go watch all the shorts that I made, I put one up every day. That was pretty cool. That was a lot of work. And so today I want to talk about, I guess, maybe the whole thing. What inspired me to do this challenge, which I don't have any notes on now that I'm looking. But, we'll talk about maybe what inspired me to do this challenge, why did it. I won't talk too much about what happened the first time because I actually already did a video on that. And then I'll talk about what this challenge was, what I did, what went well, what didn't go well, maybe what I'd do different next time. I don't know if I put that in my notes. Yes, I did. Okay, I'm just gonna bust through all this, and hopefully I get enough footage to make a video out of this. Okay, so what was the inspiration for doing this challenge originally? Originally, I was gonna go back home and do some hiking in the mountains, and so I thought that I might as well kind of get some walking in order to be better prepared for that, because I really enjoyed hiking the last time I was out there. It was in the Pacific Northwest. And so I thought, cool, I will practice walking so that I'm kind of more prepared and I can get the most kind of hikes done while I'm there. I didn't want to show up and just do like one hike. I thought maybe I could squeeze a little bit more out of this. So I was like, okay, I'll just walk like every day. I think that was initially something like that, what I thought of. And that, didn't really happen. Wasn't really enough structure. So I thought, okay, let's do a challenge. Those are super popular on YouTube. I'll put it up. I'll upload it. I'll film it. Not necessarily in that order. And then I'll see what happens. And I did it. I walked a whole bunch. Walked like 20, 25 miles in like 4 or 5 days. And then got like a really bad blister and just couldn't really. I went too hard too fast and wasn't really able to recover well enough. Didn't quite realize the importance of rest and recovery. Just thought I could kind of, forge onward. I also hadn't really practiced uploading videos, like filming and uploading videos. It was kind of my first time doing that, and so it was kind of hard to actually follow through on that. I had this plan of I was gonna walk, shoot, and upload all on the same day, which was just kind of a lot to actually do. There's a lot to actually do all of that in a day, especially on days where like I was working and the weather wasn't good, and then I had to somehow work and walk and film and upload all in one day. And there was no way I was going to upload regularly. It just wasn't, or like at a consistent time. So this time I changed that, getting ahead of myself here, but I, changed that and just uploaded the vlog for the next day. And then I always kind of had time to edit it at night and whatnot. Didn't have to do it super consistently because I could just upload it for the next day. So what was the challenge? Initially, I just kind of wanted to walk as much as I could. But this time I thought I'd kind of, kind of structure it a little bit more, kind of make more of a little bit of a plan. So the idea was I would walk. Well, this is kind of fun. It's kind of fun talking about this. This is kind of cool. It kind of makes it more real. 30 days is way out of my working memory. Follow me at Coach Guru Eli for my ADHD video coming out soon. But 30 days is like so long ago. It feels like, walking 2 miles the first week. Like I don't even. I have a hard time even putting myself in that mindset, in the shoes that I was in there. So the idea was I would walk I would have 3 distances that I would walk twice per week for a total of 6 walks per week. And then I would do one kind of rest day where I'd either walk like not at all, but I think for the most part I kind of walked like maybe like 20, 30 minutes, something like that, at a slow pace, just to kind of recuperate, help me flex. I would sometimes do that on the bad weather days. I would sometimes work that in for giving myself a break for the long days. And so then I could do like a medium walk, a long walk, and then do. This is good. I'm going. I'm gonna have a ton of footage, man. I could do a medium walk, a long walk, and then have a rest day and kind of work it in and stuff like that. A lot of times too, I'd try and do the long walk right before I was going into the next week, so that I could then use the shorter walk from the next week as another kind of recovery. So the distances that I did were 2, 3, and 4 miles for the first week, 2, 4, and 6 miles the second week, 3, 5, and 7 for the third, and then 4, 6, and 8 for the fourth, which was a total of 18 miles for the first week, and then 36 miles in the last week, which, fairly solid. Walking, average of 5, 6 miles in the end. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I definitely feel like now walking, fast for an hour and a half is pretty doable. I think I could probably reasonably do that like 3, 4 times a week. And walking for an hour and a half, this is pretty good cardio. It's a pretty good workout. It's pretty cool. I like it because I can do it even like after a meal, or like, I can snack right before. It's hard for me to like do hard exercise right after eating, and walking, I can just go out and walk and get a decent workout in. I think sometime in the late third or early fourth week, I had this plan of doing a bonus week, because I realized that 4 weeks is only 28 days. And since this is 30-day breakthrough, I apologize. My allergies are bad, and so my nose is a little bit. I'm going to try and not scratch it while I'm talking, so I can cut it out. Not so I can edit it out. Can't guarantee anything. So, what was I saying? Oh, the bonus week. So, with the bonus week, I was liking walking so much, I was like, this would be awesome. I could walk some long walks. I could make a silly number out of it. And I could, do a whole 5th week of walking. But once I did day 29 and day 30, that I did 6 and 9 miles for, boy, I was not feeling going any further than that. It was really honestly kind of weird. I thought, whatever, like I'll just keep going. But my energy kind of ran out. I did not want to walk again, and it just sank to the bottom of my priorities, it felt like, where I talked about this in one of my shorts, that I like windsurfing. I have access to windsurfing near here. So like there was wind, and I was like, yeah, I'm not going to walk. I just did not feel like walking. There was no sense in me of it's worth sacrificing my 31st or 32nd day of the 30-day challenge to, it's just not happening. So I kind of stopped doing that, and I think I did 31 days total. I still like walking. I'll probably try and figure out a way to integrate walking, especially like I was saying, somewhere in the 1 to 1.5 hours of fast walking. I can do like 4 to 6 miles, maybe doing that like 2 to 3 times per week. I think that would be pretty solid. I think that would be a good long-term habit to maintain. I can't guarantee that it will be a priority above other cardio if I'm doing that, but that's kind of it's a good like fallback activity, like it's just so easy, so frictionless, if you will, to just go for a hard walk. Kind of cool. Some other interesting things, I had no real set speed for walking, which I didn't really realize the speed that you walk at is pretty important. Walking like 2.5 miles an hour is pretty easy. I would say the hard part about that is actually for these longer walks, just being out for so long, right? If I did 8 miles at 2 miles an hour, that's 4 hours outside. Not particularly difficult, but it will get tiring, especially like if it's hot or whatever, you gotta put on sunscreen, you gotta have enough water and snacks, and like it becomes like a whole logistical thing. And in that way, I honestly think something like jogging 8 miles might be somewhat easier than slowly walking 8 miles, just because of the, you could run 8 miles in an hour and a half, and kind of be good. and not have to deal with the logistics of such a long walk. Let's see, I already talked about that. One thing that really, really helped, man, I believe this is entirely to credit for actually doing the 30-day challenge, was after failing the first challenge, after not succeeding in it, I went back and spent like half an hour thinking about and making a video. And I think the video was also important about what didn't go well in the challenge and what I would do better next time, or what I would change for next time to make it successful. Because then, like a week later, after I'd forgotten all of that, I was able to go back and watch that video and do the things that I talked about. It's so wild. I talked about like, oh, I'm going to, practice walking, and I'm going to practice doing this stuff, and, like filming and uploading. I didn't do any of it until I went back and watched the video, and then I was like, oh, that's right, I was going to do all this. And so that, I think, really helped. I think I can't remember, but maybe I talked about it in the video, but at one point anyway, I have this idea that I went too hard too fast, and I knew that in order to do the 30-day challenge successfully the next time, I would need to take it easier than I wanted to. And that definitely came up in the first week on the days where I'm walking like 2-3 miles, which is just not very much, really. It's like half an hour, 45 minutes. And I wanted to do more. I was really excited. I was so excited that I wanted to do 30 days of walking. And then I go out and walk 30 minutes and that's it. It just didn't feel very satisfying. But I remember catching myself and telling myself that I need to stop when I actually say I should in order to keep it up. And I think that was true not only because I might have overworked myself in the first week, but if I'd kept that up, I probably would have pushed it somewhere in the second or third weeks and gone too much, and then it would have been too much to actually maintain it, because it's just too much walking. At least for me in the beginning, having walked casually every once in a while, to just all of a sudden start walking 3, 4, 5 miles a day. You gotta respect the body, if you will, and respect the recovery. I was able to practice the process of making a video and editing it and uploading it. I did a few practice walks, which helped me kind of like, practice the act of going out for a walk and vlogging it and uploading it and all that stuff. So what went well? Well, I think this is the most solid thing, is I actually did it. I actually did go for a walk every day, made a video for every day. Man, it's pretty cool. And I don't really know the last time I've done something for 30 days straight that I hadn't been doing before, that I hadn't worked my way up to. It's different than I eat breakfast every day or something, but it's not like the same, I guess, because I've been doing that for so long. There's already a habit. So to create a new habit and then do that for 30 days straight to start with, that's pretty solid. I walked how much I said I was going to. Trying to think. Pretty sure that's true. One thing that did kind of definitionally was kind of tough is that I had kind of thought of this as going for a walk that is X miles long. But the problem is that a lot of times people think of how many miles you walk in terms of how much you walk during the day. And so there was kind of this, I never quite clarified that, because I didn't want it to be, that I walked 2 miles in a day. That didn't quite feel, well, that wasn't really in line with what I wanted the challenge to do, which was to prepare me for hiking. I wanted to actually do the walks. But on some of the longer walks where I'm walking 8 miles, and then at the 8-mile mark, all of a sudden I'm getting tired, or it's hot, or I've ran out of water or something, or I feel like I'm getting sunburned and I forgot more sunscreen, there was a tendency to want to just round it out, basically, and say, I did 8 miles or 7 instead of 8, but you know what? I probably got a mile in there somewhere. I really only did that maybe once or twice, I think. I did upload a video every day, and I even added on a process of doing subtitles halfway through, which I think kind of helped the videos. I don't really know, honestly. That didn't take too much time. Editing the videos in total, just as a curious thing, took about maybe 10 to 20 minutes, depending on how much editing needed to be done. Sometimes I said all that I wanted to say in 60 seconds or less, and then I could basically just copy paste it over onto YouTube. Cool. But sometimes I'd sit out there and talk for a few minutes, and then to try and condense that down into 60 seconds took a few minutes. So up to 20, 25 minutes, something like that. This is cool. What could have gone better? Yes, this was really interesting. So I had no strategies in place for how to deal with lower drive or motivation or inspiration, whatever you want to call it, to do the challenge. And that, I kind of did, but not really. So I had set up, I had talked about it, I was brainstorming, and I thought, okay, halfway point might be tricky. So, because, I've gotten something out of it, but I still have a lot left, so maybe I'll put a celebration, a little thing. I got wings, it was kind of fun, cool. And I kind of just, I didn't really set anything up. There was no real, action I had planned for, if I'm not feeling motivated to do the walk, what do? I had nothing set up. I just kind of thought, I'll just keep going, I guess. I don't even think I'd thought about this, really. And, for the first little bit, I was actually pretty stoked. Like I said, I wanted to go harder than I had planned. I wanted to walk more. And so it was kind of, a little bit holding myself back, but that worked. And then weirdly enough, after the halfway point, when I got my wings, didn't want to walk anymore. I felt done. And that I did not anticipate that. And I basically just had to kind of tank it and just keep walking. My wife would sometimes tell me, hey, just go for your walk. It didn't really feel like I was driving it. That lasted a few days, and then I was back into it, and it kind of felt like it was a little bit up and down for the rest of it. Where at one point in there, then I really wanted to walk again. I was really excited about it. Then it came back again, and I didn't really want to do it anymore. And I didn't really see any correlation with anything, if I was overworking myself or what. I think I even talked about this, and this was kind of interesting too in one of the vlogs, day 20 or 22 or something like that. I said that I felt like I'd gotten everything out of the challenge that I could. Honestly, I kind of feel like that's true, weirdly enough. I don't feel like I particularly learned very much doing the last week, other than, I did get some extra long walks in, and that was cool. But honestly, it felt like a lot of the challenges that I faced came up in the first 2 to 3 weeks, where, it was hard to actually stick to the schedule. It was hard to walk and recover and walk when I didn't want to, and do the editing process and deal with some resistance. All that came up within the first 2 to 3 weeks, and then by the end I was kind of just walking, and it just felt like it just took up 2-3 hours of my day to do this. I don't really know what to make of that, because it seemed like at the time there was no way that would be true. That seemed like such a kind of classic case of just rationalizing not doing this, but that didn't actually seem to be the case. So interesting. I was able to vlog about the difficulties, but yeah, no real actual plan for what to do about that. Another thing that wasn't, this went better because I had the buffer, but uploading to YouTube was definitely inconsistent. If I got busy in the evening, a lot of times I would forget to edit. If I went for the walk, in the afternoon, and then I was busy, and then it's the evening, and I never really get around to editing it, then all of a sudden I'd have to remember to do it in the morning. And that definitely maybe 25% of the time came up as something that didn't really work super well, I guess. And I don't really know exactly how I would do that. Maybe I would schedule in a time for when I would edit, I feel like if there was somehow a way to automate the process of getting my footage to my computer, truly automate it, so that it's just boom there. Maybe I could do it with Google Photos, set something up like that. But I don't really feel like paying, considering I'm very frugal and I can just like copy it over. Anyway, I don't know, something like that. Um, Definitely one hard part about the walking challenge is that prioritizing other things did become an obstacle when the walk started getting longer. So after like the 6+ miles, you're really talking like an hour and a half or two plus of walking. And the way I was doing it, that had to all kind of be in one chunk because I was like going for a walk, and it's a little bit hard to like kind of set up to do like several different walks. So I wanted to like get 2 to 3 hours of walking in, and that was kind of hard, especially if I had work or if I was, doing other things. Um, Working that in was just kind of tough. It became tougher. Whereas on the 2, 3, 4 mile walks, when it's like less than an hour of walking, it tended to be a lot easier to actually fit that in. And I think that would be a consideration if I was doing another challenge or helping someone else do a challenge, that I would think about actually how much time the challenge is going to take. I think a challenge that was only 5 minutes long in total, per day, is going to be a lot easier. I mean, like, boy, do I think that if someone said, I want to meditate every day for 5 minutes, I have a feeling like, I don't know, I feel like 100%, 99%, you could get there if you did all the legwork and set it up and figured it out. How do you overcome obstacles and all this stuff? 5 minutes a day, easy. If someone says they want to meditate 3 times a day for an hour, you are so likely to not do that. Like that, even if you set it up super hard, like you got to be unemployed or something, because even then, it's just going to be so much work to actually do. One thing that I didn't quite get, that for this challenge and maybe for physical challenges in general is going to be kind of tricky, is that my footwear wasn't super good. I had a problem with blisters, and so I thought, well, maybe I'll do 2 different shoes. I'll have my tennis shoes and my sandals, and then I can kind of alternate in them. But it turned out that actually going on like a long walk with either of them kind of gave me blisters. But it wasn't really blisters, it was like the start of one. And so like, yeah, just, and like walking 7 miles in sandals is actually kind of just tough if I haven't worked up to it. So that didn't really quite go super well, I'm gonna say. I kind of felt like I had to just hope that my feet acclimated to the walking, and they did. At the end, it was worked out. But definitely, I feel like that could be a real stopper, a real obstacle for physical challenges in particular. Something like, my wife is trying to work on her press up handstands, but I have kind of like weak wrists sometimes, and I just feel like there's no way I could actually do 30 days of handstands, because at some point it feels like this is going to come up with my wrists needing more recovery than is required. And maybe then I could alternate and work in other activities that aren't with the wrists until they get better. But that's definitely a tough part with this, is like, for a 30-day challenge, if you're trying to do something every day, the body does not care that you want to do it the next day. It's got its own time, what would you call it? Time plan. What is the word for this? Timeline. Its own timeline that it works on. And you don't really get much choice in that. So that's something tricky, and I don't really know what to do about that yet. I'm gonna have to think about that, how to actually, well, like I said, you could alternate things like I did with the shoes, or like you could do with working out. What else could you do to get around that? Honestly, it just feels like recovery. You just need recovery. And so you can either just take days off or do something else. Feels like then doing something like an hour of cardio a day is going to be a lot easier to do as a challenge, because you can just mix it up. You can do whatever you want. You could walk, bike, swim, run, row, I don't know, do stairs, what other types of cardio are there? Horseback riding. I don't know. But that's going to be so much easier because you can just alternate. It's going to be exciting. You're not going to deal with any sort of like built up problems around a specific activity, and you can do your hour of cardio a day. All good. I think that would be good. Another thing that I think could go better, this wasn't really something that went wrong necessarily with this, but something that I just think would be interesting for future challenges to kind of think about, was that a lot of people that do challenges, they come up with some kind of data to track along the way to make it more interesting. And the data for this was not very interesting in my mind, because I already knew how much I was planning on walking. So the main metric of like steps or miles gone, I already knew that. Didn't really add much. And I thought maybe, I could have come up, I thought about this afterwards, after the challenge, like maybe I could have come up with some kind of pace over, pace times miles over heart rate, or, something like that. What would the actual math be? Like pace over heart rate scaled for miles, or tracked along miles. But I didn't start wearing a watch until halfway through, because I didn't really care about the data in the beginning, because it wasn't interesting. Because I was like, what does it matter if I track 2 miles? So I think probably over time I probably walked faster. My heart rate probably went down for my pace over time, probably, but it did get hotter, which tends to increase heart rate. But I think that would be an interesting thing. So for other challenges, I think it would be interesting to kind of set up some before and after stuff. I think if I was doing a walking challenge again, I might do something like see how fast I can walk a mile, or see how fast I can run a mile, or see, what my heart rate is when I walk a mile at a 15-minute pace or whatever, and then track that and maybe have that, do that every week or something. There's got to be some kind of interesting data there, I think, to track if you want the data to be interesting. For my next challenge, I want to try 100 free throws per day and 100 push-ups, and I'm going to alternate them in, because there's no way I can do 100 push-ups right now. So I would do 1 free throw, 1 push-up, and do that, 100 of those per day. And for sure, now all of a sudden the data is super interesting, right? Because now I get to track how many free throws I do every day. I'm for sure going to, I can do a day 1, even a day 0. How many push-ups can I do in a row? And then see that on day 0 versus, day 31, and maybe even day 45 or whatever, to give myself some recovery. It'd be interesting even, to do a day 45 and a day 60 follow-up and see how many push-ups can I do, how many free throws can I do, see if the skills last, That seems a lot more interesting. And that for sure also might help with wanting to do it every day, because I don't want to miss a data point. And then there's a little bit more of a sense of working towards something. It's kind of hard to, for me at least, it's hard to keep in working memory how it was walking 3 weeks ago. And so when the walking was maybe easier, or I was going faster, truth be told, it does not feel that different to walk at a 19-minute mile pace versus a 20-minute mile pace. So it's not like that really, it didn't feel that, Whereas other things, if you did something like doing a handstand, that you can do a handstand now, and that can be pretty cool. How I feel after the challenge. Let's see what I wrote. Yeah, I totally I agree with my notes here, that I felt more excited to complete the challenge in the first half. The first half was actually, there was a lot of excitement. I felt really cool about it. I felt really good. I thought the idea was really cool to complete this challenge. In the second half, I had more so shifted to enjoying the walks, actually, and didn't really care about the challenge anymore. Like, it was just kind of something that I did at that point. It was almost like habitual in a way. But I didn't really feel like excited to finish the challenge. On week 3, knowing that I had 1 week left, even on the 30th day, finishing it, I had set up the bonus week, which I think kind of sucked, sucked the enjoyment out of finishing the 30 days. But like, it wasn't like after walking on the 30th day, I wasn't going to walk anymore. It's not like I'm done walking, So kind of a weird end to a challenge, of like, I just celebrated doing 30 days of something that, people do. Maybe the 7 peaks in 7 days challenge that I'm going to do might feel more of an accomplishment. But honestly, my guess is the same thing's going to happen. This happened too with the walking challenge, is that in order, 60% of the way through, when I don't want to do it anymore, I have to tap into actually liking and enjoying the activity in order to keep going, to keep up the motivation. And so then when I finish it, I have changed from wanting to finish it to wanting to do the activity in order to overcome the resistance of no longer wanting to do it. And thus, when I finish it, I don't really care anymore because I've transmuted my desire to finish the challenge into a desire to actually do the activity. Yeah, like this says, I didn't see the challenge as an end goal because I was going to keep walking, and I liked walking so much at that point that I think I'm just going to keep walking like this because it's kind of fun. And like, therefore day 30 was just kind of like, well, I don't have to, I can go windsurfing now, which is cool, I guess. But then it kind of feels like a relief. It's not really like a celebration, even though it kind of is also. It's kind of like finishing a marathon. The marathon line, like people are kind of excited, also kind of tired. Personally, I do feel really proud of actually following through on this. It's kind of a little bit like, what's that word? A little bit dereal? What? Like unreal? There's a little bit of a sense of like, this doesn't even feel like me that I would do a 30-day challenge like this. This seems so, and to come up with it on my own, it feels like something, I think I said this in something else. I don't know if it ever got published, but it feels like something that would be really easy to do. And so when I think about, could I do a 30-day challenge? I feel like, of course, but actually having gone through it, I think that there's very little chance I really could have done a 30-day challenge before this, or without, trying and failing and then trying again, which I think really wouldn't have happened before. So that's kind of cool. That is kind of cool. Was kind of interesting. I think I've talked about this a little bit, but that there was enough momentum building up the habits to keep going without any real motivation. It was like, I didn't need to be excited about it. I just kind of, decided when I was going to go walking, walked, filmed, uploaded. That was it. There was no real need to have this like surge of excitement to keep going. One interesting thing, I do think this is kind of interesting. I was, a little bit ago, I read a book on, the arcs of narratives, right? If you kind of think about, maybe I'll put an infographic up if I have the time, but the kind of standard arc of a movie or a story, there's kind of the rising action, and a lot of times too, in a classic story, there's some kind of evil force at play, and that evil force, kind of presents itself, causes some issues. The hero or heroine kind of is able to overcome it, and it seems like they're doing really good. We don't have to get too much into it, but there's kind of this up and down wave. Things seem to be going good, then they're not going so good, and then they're going good, and then not, and then the hero eventually kind of wins. And weirdly enough, I feel like my journey with my own, if you take the good side as being finishing the challenge, and you take the bad side, you put the bad side as me not doing the challenge or my resistance to the challenge, it actually lined up really well. The first 2 weeks were pretty smooth sailing, and then it felt like I wasn't going to be able to do it. I was very resistant. There were a few days where I kind of didn't want to do the challenge, but then I was able to overcome it. And then it was kind of like, oh, smooth sailing from here on out for like 3 or 4 days. And then there was kind of one final push where then, I then didn't want to do it. And then, I was able to overcome that with, all of the skills that I've learned so far and finish it out. Weird, I guess. I guess it's not weird that this arc exists and that my story aligned with it. It's just weird that it aligns so much. I feel like, it's kind of, it seems surreal. Maybe that's okay. So what am I going to do next? Talked about the free throw challenge. Some interesting things about this is I think it's going to be easier because it's less of a time commitment. I don't know exactly how long 100 free throws are going to take. My guess is like 30, 45 minutes. Yeah, something like that, 30, 45 minutes. Has more interesting data, and I'm planning on doing it with a friend, so that'll be kind of cool. And we'll get to like challenge each other and, hold each other accountable and all that. There might be more footage though, if I because instead of just vlogging it, I might like record all of it. That might be a lot of footage to handle. I said early exhaustion will likely be difficult, maybe around days 3 to 6. It's probably true that doing 100 push-ups and 100 free throws, there might be there might be a little spike in the beginning. Like days 1, 2, 3, I get better, and then like days 4 through 6 or 7 kind of fall off while I recover, and then eventually maybe get back into it. What else might I do? My wife wants to do a yoga challenge of doing yoga every day. This one is kind of interesting. Has a consistent amount of time and effort required, really. And somehow I feel like it's going to be difficult if it's not scheduled in like first thing in the morning somehow, or like last thing in the evening. That, she works like a more regular schedule than I do. And it just feels like it's got to be like first thing in the morning. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen. And by it's not going to happen, I mean, there will be a time in 30 days where something else comes up and makes it hard to do. And then, after you've done yoga for 12 days every day, and then the 13th day, you stay up late, and then you wake up late, and you gotta, it's just things like that can throw it off. I also think it's likely that there will be some kind of physical burnout. That is going to be kind of too hard in the beginning, or that, doing the same thing every day is just going to be a real challenge. And I also think that mentally, I would guess somewhere around half to 2/3, 70% of the way through, even earlier, maybe even like 40% to 70%, it's going to kind of be mentally tiring, because you're going to have all the quick gains early on, and then it's probably going to plateau, or it's going to feel like it's plateauing, and that might be kind of demotivating. Another challenge I'm thinking about doing, man, there's a lot to say. I don't know how long I've been going. No, 40 minutes, jeez Louise. Okay, another challenge I'm thinking about doing is one where I watch one French movie every day for 30 days from the last, or one movie for each year of the last 30 years. And then I would do a review in like English and French, and maybe like have a few kind of structured things, like, words I learned, things I found interesting, such and such. And somehow I do feel like this would be really difficult to do, because I don't really know if I could really break up the movie. Feels like if I'm doing that, I'm already gonna lose. It's like, how am I really gonna watch like a third of a movie, in the morning and evening, or morning, afternoon, and evening? That just doesn't seem likely. So it's like, then all of a sudden I gotta watch a whole movie every day for 30 days. That's way more movies than I normally watch. Somehow that one seems really hard, but I do think it'd be really, really cool to see how much better my French gets, and see what I learn, what kind of vocabulary I learn. It'd be kind of cool to do it in French, it'd be, I don't know what my current people that watch my YouTube videos would think of that, but, yeah, and it also might get very mentally exhausting doing it all in French. Okay. One unexpected thing was having so much time where I was out walking, not doing other things, gave me time to basically kind of like, I just kind of had free time. And one of the ways that I spent that is actually calling my family a lot. And so in this last month, I think I've talked to my family more on the phone than I have in like maybe the last year. I don't know. Like, yeah, because I would just go out and call all my family members and talk to them while I was out walking. My mom started walking herself, and so we would, she'd call me when she was on her walks and stuff, and like that was really kind of cool. Something I did not expect to happen was that this extra free time, I would find a way to use it. I'm sure if I was into listening to books on tape, I probably would have listened to a whole bunch of books on tape or podcasts or whatever. And so that was kind of a little unexpected nice thing that came out of this, was being able to have extra time to do something that I didn't really know, I would enjoy doing so much, and also didn't recognize how much, unscheduled time I would need to do that. Because normally I'm just going to schedule my whole day full of things, and then something like that kind of falls off the radar. One other interesting thing, unexpected, that I thought was kind of cool is just spending so much time outside in the heat. I feel like I have gotten so much more comfortable being outside in the heat and dealing with that better. So like I've talked several times about windsurfing, and boy, is it going to come up a lot this summer. If yeah. But being out windsurfing, normally that really zaps me. Being out in the sun, working hard. But after doing this challenge for a month, the few times I've been out this season so far, I feel pretty okay. Even there was one day where I walked like 10 miles outside. I was supposed to go for, it was on the day where I did the 9-mile walk. I ended up going 10 miles. No, it was on a day where I was supposed to do my 8-mile walk and ended up going 10 miles. And I felt like pretty okay afterwards, which was kind of incredible because it was like super hot and I was out for a long time. And that was really another unexpected benefit. I'm trying to think of anything else that was unexpected benefit. Not really. Not really. Okay, cool. Well, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. I definitely enjoy any comments that people leave. That's really cool. It's fun. It's fun to just put stuff out there and have people interact with it. I'm definitely, if people have questions or comments, I'm going to take a look at those. And yeah, let me know if you like the idea for the future challenges, what kind of stuff you'd like to see. And yeah, that's about all I got. Cool. All right, guys. Well, welcome to the Breakthrough Crew. Let's do this. All right. Wow.